The 2024 Fantasy Football Recap and FFPC Playoff Challenge lineups on Old Fashioned Football, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code OFFSGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash.
Hey, what's up? This is Sam Acho, and you're listening to Old Fashioned Football.
Old-fashioned football.
You make this deal right now, you pancake-eating mother.
All right, deal.
Old-fashioned football.
Welcome to Old Fashioned Football. If you're wondering who you're listening to, this is J Mark. You can find me on the X at J Mark Football. And if you're wondering who us is, that's at Old Fashioned FB. And before I keep going to talk about the 2024 Fantasy Football Recap and FFPC Playoff Challenge lineups, I got to introduce my co-host on the pod and in life. You can find her on the X at the Mark. How you doing today?
Doing great.
You know, I was a little excited. We have not done a podcast since last year.
I was waiting for that. I knew it was coming.
It has been a while because of holidays and everything.
We took a pause there last week. So
yeah, but we're back.
We are.
We are back now. We have a little off-season scheduling change because we've been doing Mondays and
Thursdays. Mondays for your waiver wires, Thursdays for your start sits.
Which
in the off season,
there are none of those in the off season, just so you know.
Well, I know this, and I'm saying during the off season, we'll be coming to you starting next week on Whiskey Wednesdays.
Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah, and we're excited about that. We're going to keep the content rolling. There might, last year, as we got past the Super Bowl, we took a couple weeks to take off, but otherwise, we'll be pretty consistent. Follow our socials because we'll have shows scheduled. We'll put it out on the X of if we won't be having a show, basically, right?
Correct.
Today we're recapping 2024.
I know. I can't believe we're here already.
I know.
It's crazy. It was a really fun season.
It
was a lot of unexpected, even like injuries, like players who didn't get injured did not perform.
Right. Yeah. Some injuries, but some, you're absolutely right. Some came out of nowhere. Others did not perform. We're going to see how our top 12 fantasy football predictions by position went, which is
not
a little
good.
Scary.
It is scary. This year, we're just so not accurate this year.
That's
with
not
some
true.
of them, with some of the positions.
Yeah. Well, we nailed some of them. We're also going to be giving out an FFPC lineup. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, we're going to explain it.
We did this last year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have that this week and next week because they run that second contest after Super Wildcard Weekend. If you want to get a head start, you can head on over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com to check out my article that I did on the FFPC. And spoiler alert, it has a different lineup that I'm giving out tonight. So I wanted to give out two. I didn't want to just repeat the same thing I had wrote in an article. So
I could do so many different lineups. It was so fun.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun putting together.
Yes, I agree. It is a lot of fun.
But we'll talk a little about the playoffs as well. And
playoffs.
Justin's going to give you his playoff lock bet.
Yeah. I got one cooking too. And then we got a whiskey review, which we have not done for a bit.
I know. It's been a minute.
It has been. I mean, we did our 5 Christmas cocktails and that kind of lingered a little bit.
Well, I know a lot of people, I've seen so many posts and reels about dry January, and we now have a speakeasy here in town, and they have a whole dry January menu where it's mocktails. We probably should have done something with mocktails. Maybe we'll do it next week. We are obviously doing wet January because we could re-review the old dank and dry cereal. No, I think we should. I think that's definitely in the works for a whiskey coming up. And for those who don't know, it's made by Whistle Pig. They do
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and we got a lot of new stuff to review.
We
as
do,
well.
but I think, I don't know. We're going to have to do some mock cocktail.
Mock. Okay. I
Like
can
a
dig
whiskey mock. cocktail for those who might be doing because dry January, it's always, I guess, kind of benefit. I just feel like it's getting bigger.
It is. I don't know if that means people are drinking more and they're.
So I need a month. I've got to
Right.
reset. My body is just
Right.
it needs it.
I know we have a show that regards whiskey. I think it might be a misconception by some. We're not drinking whiskey every day.
This is my one cocktail a week.
I was gonna say a lot of times it's just for the show. Now we will try stuff here and there, but yeah, we're not sitting here pounding old fashions every day, all day. But speaking of, Miranda,
yes,
what are we drinking today?
We're having an old fashioned since we didn't have our Monday show, Thursday show. We are drinking an old fashioned, and then we'll do a review of the actual, just the whiskey itself later on at the end of the show.
Yeah,
kind of back in the day when we used to do that. But in our old fashions today, we are drinking Breckenridge's port cask finish.
Yeah,
and
go ahead. I was gonna say I'm excited.
Yeah.
We may have sampled it a little bit.
I got this for Christmas.
Yes.
On my mom's side of the family Christmas.
Yeah.
And it did not disappoint.
It did not disappoint.
You can't not try a Christmas gift. I couldn't save it. Like, thank you so much. I'm excited to try this. I'll have to wait for the show.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
We do that often with whiskey.
We do.
We save it for the episode. We're going to try it.
Now I have told you recently that I'm tired of that. I want to try them. I get too anxious.
No, because then it's not as authentic as it the first time that you try it.
I suppose.
Now we've tried a lot of Breckenridge on the show in the past. We even had Brian Knoll on the show he started Breckenridge, and we had a really good time talking to him. And
more on that later though.
Yes.
We also, just for a spoiler,
you're like, stop talking, you're giving too much away.
Yeah, don't give too much away. As a spoiler, we around March-ish, no date for sure, we will be having Redwood Distillery back on.
Redwood
Empire Distillery. And we'll have Jeff and Dylan, both previous guests of ours. Dylan, obviously from Savage and Cook, which if you missed it, we mentioned they did get purchased or bought out by Redwood Empire. So I'm stoked to meet with both of them.
These two distilleries are what made me realize that I really prefer whiskey from the coast.
Yeah.
From the West Coast.
100%.
The distilleries along the coast, they're like, those two in particular are two of my favorite.
Yeah. And not only that, I feel like it opened our eyes to, just because it's not from Kentucky or Tennessee or even Indiana with MGP doesn't mean it's bad, because now we like this, we like Breckenridge.
I was going to say even Breckenridge or 10th Mountain, which is out of Vail, Colorado. Rocky Mountain distilleries know what they're doing.
They do. Yeah. Real quick, just so you know, the NFL playoffs are here. In case you've been living under a rock, make sure you tune into the Sports Gambling Podcast for all of your NFL picks and props from Kramer and Sean, and also be thinking about them. That fire is getting a little bit close, I feel like. I just saw
the photo that was it Kramer who shared it?
Yep.
That was I don't know. Just the photos that we've been seeing out there, it's crazy and very unfortunate.
I saw our buddy CJ Sullivan, the bet detective, man in the box. He had to evacuate. He and his pupper. He's got his pup and him, and I believe they were in a hotel somewhere because he had to evacuate. So wishing all our SGP family out there, just to be safe. Things can be replaced. I know it's not fun to lose things, but they can be replaced. On a serious note, let's talk about our fantasy football 2024 recap, shall we?
You mean a less serious note?
Oh, yeah, less serious. Did I say more serious?
No, you said on a serious note.
Less serious.
I don't know. Anyway, yes, let's talk about the 2024 recap.
Right. If you're on YouTube, we do have some graphics for you to follow along with. If you're listening to the podcast, hit pause and come on over to YouTube and check them out. For each section, if you want to give them a run through what we'll talk about.
We're going to talk top 12 and the point differential between first and 10th through 12th. We're going to talk any surprises in there, where those 12 landed on our list, because if you were with us back at the beginning of the season, we gave you our own top 12 predictions.
We actually started on June 25th. So there was a lot of unknown kind of at
back
that point.
then when we started giving those out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, so I guess without further ado, we'll get to quarterbacks. I want to say real quick, we did make a side bet on quarterbacks.
We did.
And it was that Jalen Hurts, you said he would get over double-digit touchdowns or would get double-digit touchdowns again. I said, nope, Saquon's going to take all those. You were right. He ended up with 14. Shout out to the chat real quick. Jamie saying, hey, ladies, Happy New Year. Yeah, Happy New Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year to
New
you.
Year.
It's a new year and the calendar has changed, but here's one thing that'll never change. Browns will always suck. Hey, you know what? The Bears are undefeated this year, and the Packers haven't won a damn game, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. He also says dry January is for quitters. I agree. If you're hitting it so hard you have to take a whole month off, you might need to reevaluate stuff. I'm just saying.
So wouldn't that be a quitter?
That would be a quitter. Yes.
No, we don't want to promote that.
No, fair enough. And my mom checking in. The recap is I lost in the family league. So yeah, shout out to Caleb. I'm not going to give him much credit.
No,
his head is big enough.
So anyone who, if you also were with us last year, that last year was the start of our family league. We thought it would be a great idea to get our family who's never played fantasy football. I mean, my uncle and my cousins might have played fantasy football in the past, but we thought it was a great idea to throw together a family league, and it has not. It has met the expectation that there would be some family rivalry, some just. I don't want to say like. Of course, rivalries, but like just some shenanigans going on that are like unnecessary.
Right.
So after our first season, we not only had a winner, and we did our engraved silver.
I believe your Aunt Jill won the first year.
It was.
I think it was CMC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a Weasel trophy.
Yes. Which your mom won.
My mom won.
Yes.
This year, my cousin won, and he won the Weasel Award as well.
Which I hate because it just shows that weaseling pays off, apparently. One funny thing, though, I mean, I wish you all could have been there because Miranda's like getting ready. This was during your family Christmas get-together. You were getting ready to announce the Weasel thing. And literally like 5 seconds before, I said to you, pretend like it's your mom again. And so you started, we don't like to give repeat trophies. I wish everybody could have seen your mom's face. She was like, what? No. She was so mad. It was
she
great.
did not take it lightly for getting the Weasel Award last year.
No, to the point where she would call me with a question and say, no, I'm not trying to be a weasel. I just don't know. So, yeah, she took that harsh. Let's get on to our 2024 fantasy football quarterbacks. We have them ranked. Now, we did something different this year than last year. We ranked them from week 1 to week 17. There should not be any leagues going in week 18. Guys sit out. It kind of changes the rankings at times. So we did week 1 through week 17. I'm going to read these off real quick. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and in 12th, Brock Purdy. Now, interesting thing to me, Lamar Jackson, 411 points. Brock Purdy at number 12, 278, over 100 points difference. That's hard to compete with if somebody's like, you know what, Brock Purdy or Kyler Murray or even Patrick Mahomes, good quarterback, and somebody else got Lamar Jackson, they got a buku more points.
Yeah, well, even Patrick Mahomes sitting at 10th, Lamar Jackson got over 100 more points than him.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Bo Nix outscored Patrick Mahomes. That's interesting.
Yes. Sam Darnold sitting at number 8. I mean, 99 points away from Lamar Jackson. So even your 8 through 12, not even close to the fantasy points that Lamar Jackson was bringing in.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to shout out to the chat. Jamie feels robbed. He did not win the keeper's bottle. Oh, man, go to Twitter and make sure you see Rod, who won it. RJ Villagomez posted it. They customized the label on the bottle. They sent him a custom flask. They sent him a hat. It was a sweet winning.
Yeah, and that's Keeper's Heart from O'Shaughnessy Distillery out of Minneapolis. And they sponsored one of our 2 listener leagues this season. The first place, Rod, really, that was an awesome prize.
It was. Shout out to them.
I was jealous.
Yeah, right. And speaking of winners, our other league sponsored by Savage and Cook, Nick Fortune won. He said he has not seen us since last year. See, Nick likes those jokes too.
I don't. They can leave.
Jamie's going to keep the chat clean since my mom's in the chat. You trust me. We could tell you stories.
That's not what he said.
Since my mommy is in the chat. I don't know if I've ever called her mommy. Maybe when I was real little. I don't remember that. But I mean, we could tell you stories from our Christmas get together of things she said that would make you realize.
Let's not. Let's keep it clean.
And Nick, I've not played college football for a while. Are there any surprises? I mean, Baker Mayfield doesn't surprise me. He was in my top 12, which we'll get to. You faded him though.
I did.
You did.
I did. Bo Nix, like you said, that really surprised me. I didn't anticipate Bo Nix coming in to be a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah,
just
me
looking
neither.
at this list, I didn't anticipate Patrick Mahomes to be as far down as he was.
Same. Yeah. And I think you'll see, let's just jump to that. Our ranking comparison, zoom. We were closest on Josh Allen. You had him ranked first. I had him ranked second. I'd say that was our closest hit. Now, I will pat myself on the back for my Goff Hurts rankings. I did have them flipped, but I was very close on them. But yeah, way wrong on Patrick Mahomes.
Looking at this comparison too, we each had 5 on our list that were outside the top 12, but they weren't the same. A couple of them were.
Yeah. You faded Baker. You
I
faded the
did.
dog.
I did.
And I faded Brock Purdy.
You faded Brock Purdy, and is that the only one?
That's the only, the different ones. Now let's just look at our list real quick. And I have some notes on this.
Let's go back for a moment. You had Patrick Mahomes at number 1.
I did. Well, yeah, we'll see that right here. Patrick Mahomes, number 1. I'm not going to blame Pinky from Sports Nonsense Whiskey, but when we had him on for the AFC North preview and he said Patrick Mahomes, or not AFC North, AFC West, sorry. He said Patrick Mahomes is about to enter God mode. He got me fired up. I was already high on Mahomes.
He absolutely
and then he fired
brainwashed
me up for it.
you. And I don't remember, because there was a couple episodes I did miss this past season. From one time I was sick and another just work obligations.
Sure.
Could not do it. But yeah, you totally threw everything out the window. Yep, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I was ready for it for sure. Now, just some notes from our list as well. We both had Tua. He ended up missing 4 games.
Yeah.
We both had Anthony Richardson, who missed 4 games. He was benched in games. Jordan Love missed 2 games. Jalen Hurts, who you had at number 2, he finished 7th. He did miss a game. I don't know if that swings 5 spots, but he probably would have been higher. Yeah. So you were probably a little closer. I had him at 6. You might have been a little closer there. Hard to say. CJ Stroud. Yeah.
You had him at 3. I had him at 5.
It just didn't happen.
A sophomore regression, as much as I hate that terminology.
When we did that episode and I kept talking about that, you got so mad every time.
I brought data that shows you
did.
that it's not really a thing. Well, it was a thing this year.
And I think maybe more a thing was the fact that Nico Collins missed, I think, 5 weeks. Stephon Diggs played, 5 games before he was out for the year. So those weapons we thought he would have, he did not have for the majority of the year. So that, that comes into play. You had Dak Prescott. I did not. He ended up missing 7 games. That makes a big difference, obviously.
Yeah, he finished quarterback 30.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's wild. It's hard to predict exactly 1 through 12. You can see we weren't close here, but there were a couple guys we got fairly close to.
Well, I think, like your Josh Allen. Obvious ones.
Lamar, had him at 3. He finished first. I mean, that's obviously pretty close. Goff and Hurts close for me. Yeah. I think moral of the story, though, don't fade Baker. Don't fade Baker. Is that correct?
Sure.
The moral story?
It can be correct.
All right. Before we talk about running backs, I got to let you know that we're brought to you by DraftKings Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. I already know that I'm going to take, I hate saying this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to parlay Saquon Barkley and Kyron Williams, both to score a touchdown. I only say I hate to do it because I'm not a big fan of Kyron. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Just download the DraftKings app. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SGP. That's SGP for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbooks. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right, we are back. I'm so glad that they provided us that, and as opposed to last time we had to read all that, because that's a mouthful to keep up with.
You went into your super speed mode.
yeah, exactly. Jamie will not be betting that Kyron touchdown this week so that we can hit. Both times he bet it, Kyron did not get a touchdown.
He's getting a touchdown. Just saying.
Let's move on to running backs. Do you want to cover who the top 12 running backs were?
Absolutely.
All right. Again, tune into youtube.com/@oldfashionedfootball because it's not just our pretty faces this time. We got some graphics.
Yeah. So starting off with that first spot there, Saquon Barkley coming in at 338.8 fantasy points this season, followed by Derrick Henry, who there's a little bit of a gap here, basically 40 points. Derrick Henry finished the season with 297.8 points. Coming in at third, Jahmyr Gibbs with 293.4 points. Fourth, we have Bijan Robinson at 288.9. At number 5, Josh Jacobs, 264 fantasy points. Kyron Williams, who I know you just mentioned, you don't like this guy. He was a touchdown machine this season. He came in at number 6 with 255.1 fantasy points. Number 7, Devon Chan, coming in at 242.8 points. Number 8, James Cook, 241.9 fantasy points. The 9th running back this season, Alvin Kamara with 231.3 points. Coming in at number 10, James Conner with 230.3. 11, Chase Brown, 228. And finally, at that 12th spot, Chuba Hubbard with 220.1.
Surprises to you. Something I'd like to point out real quick. Let's say you predicted this perfectly. 1 through 12 perfectly. But you're the 9th or 10th pick in the draft, let's say. So you go with, I feel good. I'm getting James Cook. He still scored almost 100 points less than Saquon Barkley. I mean, nobody, you can't predict this stuff. You can try. You can put all the data and thinking into it you want. But if you didn't predict Saquon Barkley number 1 and draft him as your first overall running back,
a lot of people
got screwed.
A lot of people talked about how he wouldn't be as good,
including Kramer. Yeah, but we did mention that kind of sounded like, the ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend just isn't as good, type of thing.
Well, he was better.
Right. Yeah. What's your biggest surprise on this list as you look at it?
Oh, my biggest surprise. What's your biggest surprise?
Mine's Josh Jacobs.
Really?
You know how down I've been on Josh Jacobs.
I guess
in the past.
For you.
Going to the Packers, I didn't expect him to do that well. And he had a phenomenal year. I love seeing Chase Brown here. That's another one. Yeah.
Well, we talked about him a lot, though. Seeing Chuba Hubbard come in at the 12th was kind of just like, oh, really?
A Panther player?
Yeah. And that was unexpected. When we're putting all this together, that was like, oh.
We didn't even consider him.
No. And not somebody I even realized, he squeezed in there.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at ours. You're going to see more players that finished in the top 12 that we didn't. Now, Devon Chan, you did say he was an honorable mention.
I did.
The biggest thing there is we both expected Raheem Mostert to be more involved, but he missed a lot of games.
He did.
I don't know if that necessarily affected Devon Chan's performance because he did really well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were both off. Let's just say
well,
we were
I'd
both
like
off.
to talk about Kyron Williams again here.
Yeah, go for it.
You had him outside your top 12.
I did.
I had him coming in at 7, and he exceeded my expectations coming in at 6, but I was pretty close there. And I think some of your biases need to change. I think Kyle Pitts is a perfect example of how you get these biases. Both Patrick Mahomes too. I'm gonna just pick on you because
That's fine. You
can.
You can pick
and
on
you
me.
get so like passionate about where they're gonna be. And I all season, like Kyron's production and his awesome fantasy value, and you were still down on him all season.
The chat is saying enough about Kyron.
No, that's just Jamie in the chat. Let's just point out it's not the entire chat. It's Jamie in the chat. You and Jamie we are
aligned.
Totally against me about Kyron.
I would like to point out Chase Brown finishing number 11th. I did have him ranked 12th. It was on the basis of me saying if he wins the starting job, but that I thought he would. That's a guy I was high on. You nailed Bijan Robinson. You had him at number 4. He finished number 4th. I would say I slept on Jahmyr Gibbs, though. I had him at 10th. You had him at 5th. He finished 3rd.
Yeah, he finished a little bit, again, exceeded my expectations, which I was happy about. I targeted him a lot.
Nick Fortune in the chat pointing out that there's one player not on this list that we all expected.
Yeah, well, I think we can say that. I think everybody had him as the number 1 running back,
right?
Which is CMC.
Yeah,
but again, you can't predict those injuries. I
mean,
you can look at the injury history there, but
yeah, you just it's hard to. I mean, we go into this. I re-listened to make sure I had our lists correctly. In each one, we said we're not predicting any injuries because you can't. It's hard to say like, oh, well, this guy could get hurt. Well, any of them could get hurt. Let's just look at our top list real quick. I had CMC, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall. Shocked that he did not finish in the top.
He did not. I had him at number 2.
Yeah.
He finished at RB 18.
Yeah, it's Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, another guy not on there, James Cook, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Najee Harris, Chase Brown. You had CMC, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, James Cook, and Rachaad White. Interestingly enough, we both had Jonathan Taylor, who did not make the top 12. We both had Travis Etienne and Joe Mixon, who did not make the top 12. Etienne did miss 2 games, but 2 games is not enough to drop you to 39th overall.
No, he just did not perform.
Right. Now, Joe Mixon, he did miss 3 games. That does affect
I do feel if he had not missed those 3 games, he would be in the top 12.
Yeah.
He finished 1 position outside of it. He would have been in the top 12.
I agree. Jonathan Taylor missed 3 games. Breece only missed 1 game. That's not enough to drop you to 18.
Jonathan Taylor and Joe Mixon are the 2 on this list who, if they had not been injured, I guarantee we would have seen them come in higher.
Yeah, no, I agree. And interestingly enough, I decided to look at fantasy football points per game so that you take out those missed games. Joe Mixon, had he played every game and kept that average, number 5. And Jonathan Taylor, had he kept that average, number 8.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where that's why nobody's going to get.
With
I know. Nobody can predict these perfectly, in my opinion. Our bet on this one, we made a little side bet.
We did.
And it was pretty even, to be honest. You said Kyron Williams was going to get his 18 fantasy points per game, just like he did last year. I said it was going to be 11 or 12.
And he finished at 15.
15, yeah. So, close, though.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle, yeah. Right in the middle. So if we split your truth on him and my bias, we'll probably end somewhere good, and somewhere.
I don't think it works that way.
You don't think so?
No.
All right. Shall we talk about wide receivers?
Yeah, let's get going.
All right. Wide receivers. We have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Malik Neighbors, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Mike Evans, and Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Jeudy. Yeah. Now, the glaring thing to me is number 1, Jamar Chase, 318.9 points. Number, we won't even go to the bottom. Let's go to number 7, Malik Neighbors, 204.2, 114-point difference.
You don't even have to go that far down the list. You go to number 5, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
That's 103-point difference.
Yeah. which is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
105.
predicted Jamar
I think I
Chase
said 103, 105.
105 when we did this, Jamar Chase was holding out, and we faded him big time because of it, and that was wrong of us. I apologize.
I'm still wrong. 106. What is wrong with my eyesight?
Do some math. Little math problems there, I guess. You did win our side bet on this one.
Mm-hmm.
You thought I was crazy because let's go ahead and bring up our rankings. Zoom. I had Justin Jefferson at number 6. Our side bet was, you said he will finish better than 6. If he finishes 6th or worse, I win. He finished number 2.
Is this 2 out of 3 bets I've won now?
Yes. And a push on the other. So, yes.
So basically, I'm just winning.
Yes.
Okay.
You are.
I just wanted to confirm that.
I was winning on my prediction of CeeDee Lamb. You said I was crazy. You gave me a lot of shit. You and Serial ganged up on me for my prediction of CeeDee Lamb at number 5. And look where he finished.
Number 5?
Number 5.
He sure did.
He sure did. You were right on with Justin Jefferson. He finished 2nd, but you had him at 1st. I mean, that's close enough. We were really close on Amon-Ra. You had him at 4. I had him at 2.
Right in the middle there.
Yeah, he finished at 3rd. Now, what's crazy here is we've got 2 rookies.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them named Marvin Harrison Jr. the top rookie in the NFL draft.
This is true.
Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors both creeping up there. Do you have a biggest surprise on here?
Well, we had half of these outside of the top 12.
Yeah.
The wide receivers just, we just seeing a lot of these names in here is surprising. Jerry Jeudy, that's not one I would have thought of.
No.
Just right away there.
Jackson Smith and Jigba. That surprises me. With DK Metcalf on the team, it surprised me that JSN was the top guy.
I was really down on Garrett Wilson. So for me, seeing him there at number 10 does surprise me. Like thinking at the start of the season, I just didn't think they were going to have the chemistry.
Yeah. The what?
The OChem.
The OChem. Wesley checking in. Good evening. How's it going, sir?
Hello.
Welcome. Jamie saying, wait, mixing fantasy points per game, 17.2, which is 9th. What site are you looking at? I was using Fantasy Pros, but yeah, not week 18, just week 1 through 17 and half PPR. Another thing that I'll pat myself on the back on. Now, I did not put him in the top 12, Brian Thomas Jr., but I got in many an argument on Twitter and Reddit that he would be better than Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. I can pat myself on the back for nailing that.
You absolutely can.
Let's look at our top 12. I'll let you read through them this time.
Oh, okay. You want me to go through each of our lists here?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. At number 1, you had Tyreek Hill. I had I'm just going to go through your list. I'll go through mine. You had Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka, Michael Pittman, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Nico, AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, and Jamar Chase. Looking at my list for my top 12, I had Justin Jefferson coming in at number 1, followed by CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, Nico, DJ Moore, Jamar Chase, Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk, and Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, and just some notes. Puka missed 5 games. AJ Brown missed 3. Nico missed 5. Brandon Ayuk missed 10.
Yeah, the injuries really, and that's why, half of our list didn't make the top 12.
Yeah,
and we had players in there, obviously half of them who we didn't predict would be in it, and I do think that is largely in part to injuries.
Yeah, and shout out to you. Again, injuries hard to predict. You said Puka would finish 5th. If you break out fantasy football points per game, he would have been 5th.
He would have been 5th.
So shout out to you. That was right on there. We both really faded Jamar Chase. The bullshit, holding out, nonsense, all the talking. We said, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah.
We were wrong.
We were definitely wrong there.
I did give you shit for Marvin Harrison, which you were wrong.
I was on the Marvin Harrison train.
You were. You just didn't predict that Kyler Murray was a maniac and didn't want to get him involved enough, I guess. Cooper Kupp, I was way off on. He did miss he missed 4 games, but still, if you look at his fantasy points per game, he wouldn't have finished in there. So pretty interesting. Now, another interesting one, fantasy points per game, somebody that would have been in there, Devontae Adams.
Oh, really?
Yeah. After getting that trade to the JETS and hooking up with Aaron Rodgers, kind of interesting. So why were we both so low on Chase? I was high in the top 4 to 5 overall. So for me, part of it was Burrow's new hairdo.
What?
Remember his bleach blonde hair?
Yes, I remember.
I was
but
really
what-
fading him because of that. And then him holding out, I just thought that their whole season was going to go to shit. Now, I was correct if you look at wins. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs, even though they had one of the top quarterbacks, one of the top wide receivers, the leader in sacks, number 12 fantasy football, Chase Brown at running back. But I thought he was going to mess up their chemistry. And that was my fault, I guess.
You're going more on like what was happening in the environment for them.
You got to realize
versus
I'm an emotional handicapper when it comes to fantasy football. And so if I see a guy not showing up for his team, I say, fuck him. He should be down on the list, not up there. So that was one of my reasons. Now, interesting, fantasy football points per game. Chase was number 1. Justin Jefferson, number 2. The other Bengals wide receiver, T. Higgins, was number 3.
Can we go back to Chase Brown for just a second?
Yeah.
And also, so that I agree, there's a lot of drama there. And historically, we have seen that when players are doing that, they don't perform during the season. So
Brandon Ayuk did not perform before he got hurt.
No, and that made me nervous to put all my eggs in that basket.
Yeah. No, I agree. Should we move on to your specialty?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do the tight ends.
I don't know if it's not my specialty this year. I can tell you that much.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Coming in at number 1, George Kittle. It is so good to see his name up there. Number 2, Brock Bowers, followed by Trey McBride, Jonnu Smith, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Tucker Kraft, Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth, David Njoku, and coming in at number 12, Hunter Henry.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about how we lined up on that in 1 second. But before we do, we got to shout out Underdog because Underdog's here for the playoffs for us. So, Miranda, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Underdog?
We are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, and Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports. We're talking NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. And you can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. We are going to be giving out our lineups, not our lineups. Let's scratch that. We're going to keep talking about the recap of this season, but go get ready and sign up with promo code OFFSGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code OFFSGPN.
And we are going to be giving them out on our social media on YouTube
Yes.
Shorts this weekend.
We did not incorporate that into the show today.
No, that'll be tomorrow or Saturday. So keep your eyes peeled.
So I messed that one up.
All good. All good. Let's jump right to our tight ends and how we
Yes.
compared. I mean, Sam Laporta, number 1, right? That's what we thought.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he would be a number 1 tight end in the future last year, not coming in at number 1 last year, but he did. And he just showed so much promise and talent, and the Lions are they've been on fire. So I thought it would continue, but that offense is on fire and they have too many weapons.
Yeah. No,
They
I agree.
don't need to rely on Sam Laporta. They,
Mhm.
So yeah, that really threw me there.
Yeah,
Travis Kelce
same.
not performing either was like, I wanted to think of him as having like a fluke year last year because we saw him come back into form for the playoffs and Super Bowl. What? Why are you looking at me like
Well,
this?
I want you to turn your attention to where I had him ranked.
I don't want to right now.
Nailed it.
You did. You said he'd come in at number 6. He did. I had him coming in at number 2. I don't know. The tight ends this season it was just a crapshoot.
Do you have concern that the tight end expert title may transition to me
Absolutely not.
for nailing Travis Kelce,
Absolutely.
nailing Hunter Henry, and getting closer on Trey McBride?
No.
No.
This is a fluke year, so you're bound to get more right than me because
Fair enough. I also had Pat Fryermuth in my
Mhm.
honorable mention, and you said he's old, and we had a whole debate on the
I
fact that
know.
he's not old. He was a rookie in 2021.
which just it seems like though he's been around for forever.
George Kittle, the ageless wonder. That's surprising to
Coming
me.
from tight end U.
Mr. George Kittle, number 1, Nick says.
Mhm.
I didn't expect that. Obviously, I had him 8th. You had a little more confidence with him at 5th.
Mhm.
We
He's
did
still
not.
an elite tight end.
Yeah.
I obviously thought like Sam Laporta and Kelsey were gonna come in above him. Evan Engram, I think I had in there maybe at number 3, and he's not even in the top 12.
Yeah.
He was also injured though. I would like to
Um,
point that out. He missed
7 games.
7
Yeah.
games. So
That makes a big difference.
it makes a huge difference. Do you have where he would have finished?
I do, but it would not have been in the top 12 still.
Oh my gosh, then never mind.
Never mind. Jonnu Smith, that came out of nowhere for me
Mhm.
for the Dolphins. He performed very well. Finished number 4th, obviously.
Oh.
That's the cutoff point, though, really. I mean, I guess you could argue Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, but if you look at those top 4,
Mhm.
193.9, 193.7, 178.3, 164.2, then it drops under 150. Which
Mhm.
goes to the point that you make every year that getting your elite tight end is important. The
Yeah, but
struggle is predicting it.
I never at the beginning of the season would have said to target George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and Jonnu Smith. The closest I would have come is if I had targeted Kittle.
Well, Trey McBride, you had it 4th.
I did?
Yeah. I had
Okay,
him
never
second.
mind.
You
I
him at
had him.
4th.
Oh, then I did not have Evan Engram in the top 4.
No, you had.
I don't remember who I had in the top 4.
Well, I'll show you in a little
Yeah, you
bit
will.
here. You did have him in the
Or-
top 4, actually. Notice there's a number missing from yours, and that's where
3.
you had him. Yeah,
Oh, well, yeah. Didn't I just say I had Evan Engram at 3?
I think you did.
Okay, I'm losing my mind.
Nick thinks you need a strategy card next year for tight ends.
I don't think so. I would like to see your strategy card, and I would like to see where your tight end rankings were at the beginning of the season.
We were pretty close on Mark Andrews, though. I will shout that out.
Mhm.
After a very slow start. Remember that first game? We were like, oh, he's cooked. Mark
Mhm.
Andrews is no more. This is Isaiah Likely's offense. And he bounced back, obviously. Sam Laporta, we thought, was cooked too. He ended up coming all the way back to 7. He finished strong, I would say.
Mhm.
Let's take a look at our top 12s. We both had Sam Laporta number 1, and then I'll go through mine and then yours. Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, Evan Engram, Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle. I saw you laugh at Kyle Pitts. Jake Ferguson, Brock Bowers, Taysom Hill, Hunter Henry. And then you had Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Evan Engram, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Jake Ferguson, Brock Bowers, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Cole Kmet, and Taysom Hill.
Yeah. I'm not proud of Kyle Pitts being in my top 12. I feel like your passion for this guy swayed me because I didn't want to not have him in there and have him do well and have me be that off.
That's fair. Some people to just point out that missed games. Evan Engram, like you said, missed 7. Jake
Mhm.
Ferguson missed 3. Dalton Kincaid missed 3. And Taysom Hill missed 8. However, we get shit every year for putting Taysom Hill in our top 12. The fantasy football community shits on it every year, and that's fine. However, his fantasy football points per game, do you know where he finished?
Where?
Number 4. So we were low on him at that point. I mean, he would have finished number 4th if he kept up that rate. So that's just impressive to me. Nobody ever likes saying Taysom Hill is a top 12 tight
Mhm.
end, but if healthy, he is. However, I do think that's over. I think because of the injury he had
Mhm.
and his age, that's probably over. Yeah. So, Jake Ferguson, number 28, that surprised me. I thought he would do better. I was very wrong on Dalton Kincaid. That brings us to the side bet. I said Kincaid would be the top Bills player to get targets. He had 75. Khalil Shakir had 100. So I was off on that.
So we're wrong. So I'm still winning.
3-0 to push. Yeah. To a tie, basically. So Nick's going to predict his rankings and send them to you next year.
Do it because I would love to compare. I'd love to have our own comparison and just school you. So let's do it.
Talking a little smack. Jamie is drinking because he is buying, but he was buying Andrews cheap and selling Likely high.
Mhm. There was a point this season early in the season, where you could definitely do that.
Yeah. And
Isaiah Likely looked like he was going to just
we were advising some
popping off,
people
yeah.
to, hey, sell Likely now. He's not going to have that big of a game. Should we move on to the FFPC?
let's do it.
All
I'm
right.
excited for it.
All right. I guess before we get to it, we should talk a little bit about it. Do you want me to?
Mhm.
All right. So just a little information on the FFPC Playoff Challenge. Just Google FFPC Playoff Challenge or go to my article, because in my article there is a link by you to use code SGP where you'll get $25 off your first entry. The entry is $35, I believe. So
Mhm.
you only have to do $10 of your own money. You get $25 free. And first place, I think, pays $100,000 or thereabouts. It's basically a fantasy football lineup that you enter for the playoffs. The main catches are that once your player loses a game, he's done, right? So you gotta keep that in mind. The other catch is that you can only pick one player from each team.
Mhm.
That's where
Which
it gets
is-
tricky.
It definitely strategy comes into play there.
Yes.
And
I don't know about
yeah.
you, but there are players where it's like, oh, I want that player, but shit, that means I can't get this one.
Mhm.
And that makes it
you
really
cannot,
tricky.
in my opinion, you cannot choose a lineup unless you fill out a bracket.
Yeah.
Fill out your bracket for the Super Bowl, for the playoffs into the Super Bowl. And then you've got to look at the top targets on every team, how factor in their average fantasy points per game this
Yeah.
season. Those are just some of the things I looked at.
Absolutely.
One thing too, I do want to just recommend anybody who is going to go sign up that you pay attention to state laws.
Yeah. Make sure they do have a list of which states cannot
Mhm.
participate.
It will still allow you, if you're in one of those states, to fill out, like, to set a lineup.
It's interesting because Iowa is one of those states where you can't.
Yes,
and
we didn't realize that last year. I
Right.
won, and it was unfortunate.
you can enter a lineup on your computer, not on your phone, I
Mhm.
guess. So yeah, pay attention to that. And what you were saying about make your bracket, that's what I love about the FFPC challenge. Everybody's going to have a different idea of who should be.
But I think
in
if you're
there.
confident, like, fill out your bracket, and if you're confident on it, that's like how you need to choose your players
Yeah.
for your lineup.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, an example, let's just say Justin Jefferson.
Mhm.
Let's say you think he's going to play in the Super Bowl. Vikings going all the way. But I think he loses the first round to the Rams.
Yeah.
You're going to weigh him way differently.
You are. One thing, I don't want to give away my lineup.
Yeah.
But for Justin Jefferson, I don't have the Vikings going far.
Right.
But I want his points. Like, if I could get a player with about over 20 points
Mhm.
for that one game, it might be worth putting him in a flex spot, just throwing him in one of those flex spots. Right now, like, two of the teams, you're going to have to leave. Like, you're
Yeah.
going to have two teams where you won't select a player from.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about that. There's one quarterback, two running backs,
Mhm.
two wide receivers, one tight end, four flex, a defense, and a kicker.
Mhm.
So 14 players out of the 16 teams,
Mhm.
right? No. 1, 2, 3,
14.
4, 5,
14.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Out of the 14 teams.
Yeah, 12 out of the 14 teams. It's PPR league, tight end premium though, so tight ends get 1.5 points.
Mhm.
I did take advantage of that in my lineup. Spoiler alert. So like we said, before you enter, and Jamie's saying we can give our lineup away as an example of what not to do. Hey, Miranda did win
I
some money
did.
last year. Well,
Mhm.
she should have.
I should have. It was disappointing.
So let's go over our brackets real quick
Mhm.
of who we think is going to advance to the Super Bowl. Let's talk about yours first.
Oh,
I
just
was
throwing mine out there.
Very
huh?
disappointed in it.
That's fine. Yeah. And I kind of went ballsy at the end there because I just went with what I
Well,
wanted.
that's the point I was disappointed in, that the Lions winning. Fuck the Lions.
I know, but at the same time, like, as I'm looking at like who we have in the playoffs, I talk about all the time how
Playoffs.
the NFC North is such a powerhouse. How we have the most out of our 4 teams, the most top 10 of every position
Yeah.
compared to any other division in the NFC or AFC. We have 3 of the 4. Obviously, the Bears, we suck. But 3 of the 4 NFC
We're undefeated this
North
year.
teams are in the playoffs. We are that powerhouse. I'd like to see an NFC North team get to the Super Bowl. And because like I said, NFC North has the most in those positions.
I did find out from my parents, they're huge Bears fans like me. That's where I get it from. They're rooting for the Lions.
I think it's the NFC North pride. That's
right.
what it is. But fuck the Packers and the Vikings.
Right. Fuck the Packers. So you have the Chargers beating the Texans, the Ravens beating the Steelers, and the Bills beating the Broncos. Then the Bills over the Ravens, the Chiefs over the Chargers. You have the Chiefs advancing to the Super Bowl.
I do, because I feel like it's written.
It's written. On the other side, it is known.
It is known.
On the other side, you've got the Vikings beating the Rams. You've got the Eagles beating the Packers. Good choice. The Bucks beating the Commanders. Then you have the Bucks beating the Eagles. The Lions beating the Vikings like they just did last week. They killed them.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And then you have the Lions advancing over the Bucks to the Super Bowl. Lions Chiefs Super Bowl with the Lions winning it all.
If the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl, I think the Chiefs are going to win, because I don't know. Like, there's just something going on there. But I want the Lions to win, so I picked the Lions.
And Jamie pointing out, I did see they were considering this. I didn't see it was official, but Vikings-Rams game being moved to the Cardinal Stadium because of those fires. Sucks for the Rams, though. You're supposed to have a home field advantage game.
Yeah, and you can't have it.
Yeah. So, yeah, you have the Lions. Let's go over mine, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my best bet for Super Wildcard Weekend with it. But I also have the Chargers beating the Texans. I'm really torn on the Ravens-Steelers game.
You went with Steelers.
I'm taking the Steelers in the points. Do I think they win it for sure? I'm really on the fence. But Ravens without Zay Flowers, and Lamar has a history of choking. And then the Bills beating the Broncos. Now, I messed up my bracket here because the Steelers would play the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And the Chargers would play the Bills. But I still think the Chiefs would beat the Steelers. The Bills would beat the Chargers to make a Bills-Chiefs AFC semifinal here. Conference champion goes to the Bills. It's
How'd
the
you
Bills.
mess up your bracket there?
I forgot that I was advancing the Steelers, not the Ravens.
Okay.
So, and then the Vikings and Rams, you have the Vikings. I have the Rams winning that. I do have the Eagles beating the Packers, and then I have the Bucks beating the Commanders. I've had the Bucks beating the Eagles, the Lions beating the Rams, the Bucks beating the Lions like they did earlier this year for a Bucks-Bills.
History does not always repeat itself.
You heard me back in week 15 saying this will be the Bills versus Bucks Zin Bowl, because Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield have both admitted to using Zin while playing. But I do have the Bills winning it. The Bills win their championship, and Josh Allen gets his, which I would love to see personally. But Steelers suck, Jamie says.
Yeah, they sure do.
You know what, though? Lamar is a choke artist, but... And Nick's saying, I don't see refs. I mean, Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. The refs do tend to favor them. Should we just get to our lineups?
Yeah, let's do it.
I want you to kick it off because ladies first, right? I mean,
yeah.
If you didn't lose your stuff already.
No, I didn't.
Okay, perfect.
Quarterback. I went with Josh Allen because I have the Bills going pretty far. And it's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I feel like he's one of the best available there because I don't have the Ravens going far. So I didn't want to put Lamar Jackson there.
That's fair.
In my running back spots. Now I do have better.
Wait a minute. I'm going to give out my quarterback.
Oh, we're going to do it that way. I'm not just giving my whole lineup.
No. We're going by position.
No. Fine. Let's go.
No, I 100% agree with you with Josh Allen.
So you have Allen as well.
Allen is my quarterback. I hate to keep sending you all to my articles and give a shameless plug, but I do have an NFL playoff futures article. And my future pick for Super Bowl MVP, Josh Allen. I think he is going to make the Super Bowl. I think he is just a stud.
He is a stud. I'm not denying that.
It was tough not to take James Cook. James Cook has finished the season very well. But I think Josh Allen is the NFL MVP, and I think he's going to be the Super Bowl MVP. So I'm all about Josh Allen. Who's your first running back? Sorry that you were going to go through your whole lineup.
No, you're just like... So because we're going to do like RB1 and then go to RB2 and then flex, like I have really good running backs in my flex, but I don't have them as RB1 because I don't have them going far in my bracket.
Okay, fair enough.
So my RB1 is Gibbs because I have the Lions winning it, and
makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I wanted Gibbs, at RB2 there. that 19.8 points a game, basically like 20 points a game. Like,
Yeah.
I want that all the way.
Now they do think David Montgomery will return by the NFC Conference
Even with
Championship.
David
but
Montgomery, though,
Gibbs was still
they
very
are
solid.
such a like they work so well on the field together.
Yeah.
They're both fantasy relevant.
Yeah. He's not in my RB1 spot, but I'll give him out as well. He is in a flex spot for me. Jameer Gibbs. He finished the season, the last game of the season, with 4 total touchdowns, rushing and receiving.
He's a touchdown machine.
He's a game
for them,
changer.
and
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So who's your next running back then?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. Do you want to say anything for him?
Mm-mm. I guess he could have probably been in a. Well, yeah, I could. He probably could have been in a flex because I do. I need my lineup. It's on.
Well,
I didn't bring my lineup in here.
It's right there.
No, not that lineup. My brackets. But anyway, for Derrick Henry, coming in at the RB4 again, I was looking at points per game for this. Averaging 19.1 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I need to have him. I did have the Ravens beating Steelers.
Okay. Yeah. And I was on the fence with that. I think either way, the Ravens only play a max of 2 games, which is why I didn't want to put Lamar Jackson in there. So, if you look at it, it's like, well, who do you pick? You pick Derrick Henry. I mean, obviously.
So you have him, but do you have him in a flex?
No, he's in one of my RB spots. I have him as my RB2 if we're being technical.
Well, that's where I have him.
But yeah, so I gave out one of my flexes and then running back Derrick Henry. He's a stud. If they're going to win, it's going to be because of Derrick Henry, not because of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, it tends to be a bit of a choke artist. And Nick is loving your competitive spirit. It's coming out in your lineup. He loves it. Seems like you want to fight someone. Put him up.
Don't test me.
All right. Wide receiver 1.
Mike Evans.
You copied my lineup there. I also have Mike Evans as my wide receiver 1. It's Baker's guy.
Well, I have the Bucks not going as far as you do, but because I have him going far, I looked there. Obviously, I originally I had Baker as my cute quarterback, and then I was like, wait a second, no, I need Josh Allen up there.
Wait a minute.
But when I was first looking at like the Bucks, I was like, oh, obviously Baker Mayfield. But then I looked at the Bills and I was like, oh no, not Baker. Put Allen back up there. And so looking at the Bucks, because I have them going so far in my bracket, Mike Evans stood out to me. I want that average of 17.1 points per game.
I mean, you could consider Bucky Irvin. He's had a hell of a year.
He has. He's averaging less.
You could also consider Jalen McMillan, who finished the season very strong. He started slow, so his average points per game isn't as good, but he finished strong. But Mike Evans is a dog. He's a veteran. Yeah, he just tied Jerry Rice's record for 1,000-yard seasons consecutively. My one concern is week 1, he faces up against Marshawn Lattimore. Those two really go after each other, but I think he's going to get the better of it, and I think he's going to advance. So I like that. Who's your wide receiver 2?
Nico Collins. And okay, as I was filling this out too, I'm trying to think, is that where I would have put him?
Well, you have them losing the first round, but it is still Nico.
But when I looked at other teams and where I picked more running backs in my flex.
Sure.
So when I looked at, I know I don't have the Texans going very far, but looking at them, I mean, Nico stands out to me as points. So if I'm going to have a position where I'm not going to have those points very long, I want it to be one of their top people on the team.
Yeah, I was really torn between Nico Collins and Joe Mixon, but I did put Nico Collins in my flex spot.
Mixon does average a little bit more per game.
Yeah, on the chance that.
But I had to have a wide receiver.
Yeah, right. On the chance that the Texans do advance over the Chargers, I mean, Nico is the guy that I do want. And on the chance that they don't, I think Nico's the guy I want. I think he's the one that has to have the big game. And that happens whether they win or lose, in my opinion. Joe Mixon, coming off some kind of less performances recently, I think that's more of the defenses he's faced, but gives me some pause. So that's why I also went Nico. So you've given out your both running backs and both wide receivers, correct? Okay. And I've given out a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and 2 flexes because I'm just, as you say, a person that's on mine, I'm bouncing off
Yeah.
of that. So tight end.
Who do you think?
Well,
Who do you have?
I have Travis Kelce.
So that's who I have.
Okay.
When I
It's playoff Trav.
I know I have, it is. And we saw him have a dud of a season last season and then come to the playoffs and he's like, well, why couldn't I have that guy on my fantasy roster all season?
Yeah.
And then when I look at this Chiefs offense, I can't rely on their wide receiver. Like there's too many weapons.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting Mahomes, who finished 10th. I'm not putting him as my quarterback. I've got Josh Allen. And looking at the other tight ends that are out there, Travis Kelce, I think, is the best option between these teams.
It's a good way to think about it. I mean, like I looked at, you probably want a Chiefs player because they're probably going to win at least a game. They don't play week 1, so that's tough, but you want one. But I didn't want it to be Mahomes. It's for sure not going to be Isaiah Pacheco. Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins, they haven't put up the huge points. I mean, they kind of take turns almost of who has the better game. So I think if you want a Chiefs player, which you should have one, Travis Kelce's the main option or the only option.
I think most people are probably going to have him in that spot on their lineups.
And it's tight end premium, 1.5 points per catch. So was that your only tight end?
Yeah, that's my only tight end.
Interesting.
Not your only tight end.
No, I do have another one.
Okay. Well,
so you're onto your first flex. Correct?
Yeah, I've got Justin Jefferson there. I have the Vikings 2 games, I believe.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. It's Justin Jefferson. I don't really need to say more. I want his points in my lineup.
Yeah. Man, I was torn on the Vikings.
I really probably should have Justin. I put Justin Jefferson in my flex. I look at the Vikings as one of my first teams. I knew I want Justin Jefferson. And I put him in a flex because I thought I was going to have wide receivers from teams that were going to go farther. So I probably would put Justin Jefferson, and not that it matters, but in my wide receiver too, and flip Nico to the flex since I don't even have the Texans advancing.
I mean, and it really doesn't matter. You're going to get points for him either way. I did not have Justin Jefferson. I actually wrestled between Jefferson and Aaron Jones, and then I ended up picking neither of them because I had them losing that game to the Rams, and the Rams are pretty decent against the pass. And then even if they do win that, they go against the Lions, which could be a little easier game for them.
There's my bracket.
Yeah, sorry, I used your bracket.
You used the other side of it to write things down?
I did.
What the heck?
So I had given out 2 of my flexes. I'm actually going to bounce back to my RB1 because you haven't mentioned him yet. Maybe you will in your flex.
I will. He's my next flex.
How do you know?
I cheated. I didn't cheat. I looked at your paper.
Oh my gosh.
I'm looking
Saquon
over
Barkley.
there. Yeah.
Number 1 wide receiver or running back in fantasy football points.
It's kind of hard to
we talked about
not have him in there.
Yeah, we talked about how much more he had. If you look here real quick, if you're on YouTube, he had 338 to number 2, Derrick Henry, 297. That's a significant number more. And even though I do believe Jalen Hurts will play, he practiced in a limited fashion. He's dealing with that concussion protocol. Practiced in a limited fashion. I do think he's going to play, but Saquon Barkley is the stud of this team. AJ Brown has a knee issue, and he may be limited in the game. So they're going to rely on Saquon heavily, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and sorry to cut you off, I also think they're going to destroy the Packers, so they're going to be running the ball a lot.
Yeah, I have them going. I have them advancing, so playing 2 games in the playoffs. And even if I'm wrong there, I figured if I'm wrong, I'll just benefit from having him longer.
Yeah,
and I couldn't not have him. I originally changed something in my bracket. I had the Eagles not advancing against the Packers. Well, because I thought Jalen Hurts was not going to play.
Yeah, you did this last year. You picked him to beat the Cowboys, and Serial was pretty mad with you.
Well, the Cowboys aren't even in this. So leave them out of here. But yeah, then I do think, I'm hoping Hurts is going to be fine. And
so we both have Barkley.
And even if he isn't, I still think that they will do just fine.
I also did not give out my wide receiver 2 yet.
Oh, well,
so
who is it?
I'll advance to that. Puka Nacua. I wanted somebody from the Rams. I do have them winning that first game against the Packers. I did not go with your guy, not the Packers, the Vikings. I did not go with your guy, Kyron Williams. Last year I went with Cooper Kupp in this situation, and then it was Puka that balled out in the playoffs.
Now it's going to be Cup. He's going to ball out. It's
right?
like, I'm about done with football here.
Right.
No, just kidding.
So I wasn't going to make that same mistake twice. So I went with
Well,
Puka.
my next flex is Kyron.
Imagine that.
He's a touchdown
you Kyron
machine.
lover.
I want those touchdowns in my counting as points for me.
That's fair.
I know he had a couple, not back-to-back games. He has not had, I might be wrong, but I don't believe he's had back-to-back games where he hasn't had a touchdown.
Well, I think you're correct there.
So, he's going to have touchdowns. I've got him there. I do not have them advancing, but I still want the points from Kyron.
When healthy, Puka Nacua, number 5 in fantasy football points per game. That's why I had to go with him. You have 2 flexes left, correct?
No.
Just
I have
one?
one.
All right, well, let me give out my next. I have 2 flexes left. I don't know how we got off, but Lad McConkey. I changed the Chargers back and forth between Cameron Dicker, their kicker, and Lad McConkey. But I do think they're going to be able to move the ball in the air, and that's what Herbert relies on McConkey for.
Yeah.
Obviously, he finished in the top 12 as a rookie. He's very solid, and I have them playing 2 games because I do have them beating the Texans. Sorry, Moonoff. So, yeah, I got Lad McConkey as one of my flexes.
I don't know.
Do you have a Charger? Have you named one yet? Okay.
Yeah, it's my next one. I put
Okay.
Dobbins in.
That's a
He's
good choice, too.
averaging about the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I think McConkey 15 points a game, Dobbins 15.1. I assumed you were going to have McConkey.
Did you?
I didn't want to do the same.
That's fair enough.
But I think either one. Is you should have either of
Yeah.
those. If you're looking at the Chargers, those are the 2 players you should be looking at.
Yeah, I agree. For my last flex spot, since all your flex spots are done, I wanted to work in another tight end because tight end premium.
I guess I forgot about that when I put this when I threw that together, that
Yeah.
tight end premium.
I don't think this guy advances past week 1. I honestly don't. But he did all right this year, surprisingly. It surprised me anyway. Zach Ertz of the Commanders. I have them losing the first round against the Bucks. If they do, that's okay. I still think Ertz will be involved and you get that tight end premium points. You have to have some people on here that don't advance.
I chose the
obviously.
Commanders as a team I was not going to take a player from.
That's fair. I was close. I ended up going no Packers and no Broncos.
I know you got that tight end premium, but if he's averaging 10 points a game, wouldn't you rather have somebody who's averaging 18 points a game? Like, I know you've got that.
I'm going with Ertz. I'm going the tight end premium just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
I last year I did a fun one where tight ends were a lot more predictable last year. Let's just say that. And I had one league lineup. I got a lot of shit for it, but is it the one that won? It's the one that won.
Yes.
And I had multiple tight
I think
ends in
3
my
or 4.
I had 4.
Because you had Travis Kelce, you had Sam Laporta. I don't remember the other 2, but
I can't remember what my lineup was last year
Yeah.
either. And that
Probably
is the
Mark
lineup.
Andrews.
It's the lineup that won money for me that I did not
I
get
think
to
you had
receive.
Dalton Kincaid too.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and Mark
Mhm.
Andrews. All right, who'd you pick for your defense?
And we're gonna skip over the kicker.
Oh, I guess I have it in different. Oh, you can go kicker. Who's your kicker?
I guess no. It should be defense. I wrote this backwards. My defense, I chose the Broncos.
Okay.
Of the teams I had left,
You think they can slow the Bills?
I really, this is a crapshoot because I don't have them advancing. I had to pick something, and I like their defense better than my other options here, which would have been
That's fair.
the Chargers. Who else did I not pick here?
Did you have a Packer?
No,
The Packers.
the Packers. I
I
guess the Packers could have been an option at defense, but
Nah, the Eagles are going to put up
They
so many
are.
points on them.
I do think so.
My defense is a team that I think could win. They could surprise everybody. They're 9.5-point dogs. I forgot to give out my lock. My lock is the Eagles by 4.5 points over the Packers. That's my lock of the playoffs.
Mhm.
But I'm also going to lock up Steelers plus 9.5. And I think they could win this game against the Ravens. Ravens do not have Zay Flowers. He's already been ruled out. That is their top wide receiver. Obviously, they still have Mark Andrews. They still have Lamar Jackson. They still have Derrick Henry. If you're the Steelers, who were one of the best defenses on the field, what do? You stop the run. You make them pass without Zay Flowers, and I think that could put pressure on Lamar Jackson choking. So the fact that they could win a game, and even if they don't, I think it'll be a low-scoring affair. I got the Steelers defense.
All right.
I do like the Broncos defense, though. They are filled with studs.
Taking the Steelers defense, I took the Steelers kicker.
Okay.
I took Boswell. He was the number one kicker, averaging 11.5 points a game.
I like it. I don't like my kicker because he struggled recently, but of the teams I had left, which were the Packers, the Broncos, and the Vikings, I think the Vikings probably have the most chance of maybe advancing past where I have them. So I took their kicker, Will Reichard. He struggled recently, but it's playoffs. He could bounce back. And like I said, I mean, I don't think the Packers are going to win. I don't think the Broncos beat the Bills. I could see the Vikings beating the Rams and advancing at least one round. So that's why I went with him.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And obviously, like, this is just like, I think I should fill out, if I was going to do more, I would maybe fill out another bracket on the games that I think could maybe go the other way.
Yeah.
And then fill it out to the end. Maybe not pick the Lions to win it, because I do think it's ballsy.
Yeah.
But I want it to happen.
That's fair. I've been a hell of a team.
Yeah, they have. They're just, like I said, it would be great to see a team from the powerhouse NFC North make it, not choke in the playoffs.
I think so. I was just looking at some stats right before we hopped on here, and it showed the playoff teams' point differential versus other teams that are in the playoffs this year. I believe the Lions were number 1 or 2 with how many points they've scored against playoff opponents versus how many they've allowed. Bucks were number 4 they've scored 26 more points than they've allowed. But Lions were top 3 for sure, I remember. So, I mean, why not? Why not the Lions? I think the Chiefs are not as good as last year. I think they are going to.
I would like to not see them, but I just feel like there's so much, like, they're the popular. Yeah. Like, for anybody who wasn't a football fan, they're now a Chiefs fan.
Right. Agreed. 100%.
And it's like, and so everybody wants the Chiefs to win.
Yeah. Except the people that have been following. Now the Chiefs are the new Patriots, where we're like, no, we need somebody new to win.
Yeah.
So. Can you roll through your lineup once more, just top to bottom, just to, because we bounced around a little bit.
I've got Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Hunter Henry, Mike Evans, Nico Collins, Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Boswell, and the Broncos defense.
And I've got Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, Puka Nacua, Travis Kelce, Jahmyr Gibbs, Nico Collins, Zach Ertz, Steelers defense, and Ladd McConkey. I missed him. I was going to say that only sounded like 3 flexes. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Minnesota Vikings kicker. Wow. And Steelers defense there. Should we talk about the whiskey?
Let's do. We're running a little long here.
Yeah, that's what she said. Would you like to talk about the whiskey, or you want me to?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do this. It's my Christmas gift.
I'll do some pouring. How about that?
That works.
All right.
So, as I said earlier, we are drinking Breckenridge's Port Cask Finish. And again, this is a Christmas gift that I received. Thank you, Josiah. And Season. Got to give Season some credit.
Right.
They went to the distillery on their Colorado trip recently and got this there.
Yeah.
So we can't cover Breckenridge as well as Brian Noltz, who is their founder. We highly encourage you to go check out episode 111 to find out like all of the background on Breckenridge, because I mean, he was a fun guest to have on.
Oh, 100%.
He's extremely interesting as a person.
Yeah.
And just full of knowledge. So go check that episode out. We had a great time having him on the show, talking about everything Breckenridge, how he got it started, his passion for Scotch. It was great.
$20,000 bottles.
Yes, $20,000 bottles of Scotch were talked about. Can you imagine? I just can't even imagine.
I can't.
But to give you the Cliff Notes version,
I feel like, when we spend like $100 on a bottle of whiskey.
It's like,
we fancy now.
So Brian Nolt was, the founder and distiller at Breckenridge. He was a doctor. He was fly fishing in Breckenridge when he decided, hey, I want to open a distillery due to his love of whiskey and scotch. And initially he had the distilling help of Jordan Vai, who is now was with Savage and Cook. And as we've heard us talk about Savage and Cook, we love them. We're going to love what they do now that they're going to be part of Redwood Empire.
Yeah.
Savage and Cook will be no longer.
Right.
The name will be no longer.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that he initially had the distilling help of Jordan Vai, and the Breckenridge whiskey is the official whiskey of the Denver Broncos. When we had Brian,
they're hyped for the playoffs.
Oh, I bet they are. And when we had Brian Nolt on, one of the whiskeys Breckenridge sent us for our show with them was the Denver Broncos.
The Broncos blend.
Yeah. The Broncos
Which
blend.
they have a new blend every year.
They haven't. Yep.
Go ahead.
This is kind of go ahead. It's a spoiler alert from the episode, but I think it's fun. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, they bring in veterans from former Bronco teams. They can't have current players because of legality issues, I guess. But they bring in former players and they match them with a distiller, and then they blend something together. And then there's votes on whose is the best. I don't think they release. They say, hey, here's our blue Broncos blend. Here's our orange Broncos blend. Everybody vote to say who's the best, and then they release, okay, that one was this person. Yeah. So
yes. And some of the things that make Breckenridge whiskey unique compared to, say, a whiskey made in Kentucky or Tennessee is the fresh mountain spring water and the way that the elevation and weather affect the aging. And this is not a gimmick whatsoever.
No.
I can tell the difference between a Tennessee whiskey and a whiskey made in the Rocky Mountains and a whiskey made on the West, like California coast, or a whiskey made in Texas, because I swear you can taste Texas in Texas whiskey. But yeah, like that, having that fresh mountain spring water really impacts the taste and just everything with the whiskey.
Yeah.
And then obviously the mouthfeel.
Yeah.
And then obviously distilling up and aging in that high elevation with the weather that they have, it definitely affects how their whiskey turns out.
Yeah.
So previously on the show, we've tried their high proof, their finished in the PX sherry, the Broncos blend. We've had their regular bourbon. And then we did a special episode on Two Clans whiskey, which was a whiskey that it's no more because they ran out. We were fortunate enough to get a bottle sent to us. I was really, really excited about that.
And it's like a Scotch blend. Yeah.
And it's one that they only served at the distillery.
Yeah.
So this port cask finish is a high rye bourbon mash. It's aged for a minimum of 3 years, and then it's finished in port casks. And it is good.
How do you think it was in the old fashioned?
The old fashioned, it makes it's definitely not a normal old fashioned, but I'm not getting like port cask finish out of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I personally, I would rather have this neat.
Oh,
I think
100%.
You lose it in an old fashioned.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not like a,
and that's not a diss to it. It's just so good. Neat.
It's so good. Like this is when it's a sip neat, in my opinion.
Also, shout out to Jamie who liked both of our teams. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we can't officially enter, we're gonna have to keep track and see who wins. So for this neat, I mean, when I smell it right away, I can smell like a sweet port
caramel, like toasted caramel, even too.
Really, I get a lot of
it. I am also very plugged up. So
well, now that you said it, and that's what I get. That's immediately what I got now that you said it. Caramel.
Almost like a burnt caramel. It's not toasty. Maybe not toasty, but just like a caramely.
Yeah.
But
it's got a sweet finish because of the port.
And it's the port, finishing it in the port. I don't know. I just get this like really caramel smell off of it.
Yeah. If you've listened to us before, you know we love drinking our port wine by the fire, especially around fall. I feel like that's a perfect time for it.
Fire pit season.
Yeah, fire pit season. If you don't know much about wine, port wine is more like a dessert wine. It's sweet,
much higher,
heavy, like kind of a dark, sweet,
and a higher
wine.
percent.
Yeah. And so this, I mean, to me,
I don't like sweet wine, but I do enjoy port.
Yeah. It's a dessert wine almost. When I taste this, like you get your really good bourbon taste. You know, you get the bourbon or the caramel and the oak and that sweetness, but then it finishes of port.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. It's a
one of
the best port finishes on a whiskey.
Yeah,
on a bourbon.
100% agree. Because it's just, I feel like it's very, very well balanced in what you get. We've said with all their stuff, the mouthfeel is good. It's not light or thin. It's not syrupy. It's right in the middle there. But yeah, just the way that this blends to me of where you get that perfect bourbon and perfect port finish. It's hard to get that from what we've seen trying other port finish.
I was trying to think, I know we've done other port cask finished bourbons and whiskey, and I was trying to think, and the first thing that comes to mind, I think that it's even a whiskey we recommend for people looking kind of affordable, but maybe they haven't tried, that is good, that you can find anywhere, and that's Angel's Envy.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
This is, if you can pick up a bottle of Angel's Envy or this, you should pick up this.
100% agree. 100% agree. To me, it's not even close.
No, I will put Angel's Envy in a mixed, like in a cocktail, in an old fashioned.
Yeah.
I would not put this in it.
No, the Angel's Envy is a solid, consistent product, for sure. And their port finished it's okay. It's good. It's not bad.
This is just, it's special.
Yeah. The science, I would love to know the science behind it, because to me, when you try the Angel's Envy port finish, you might get a little port taste.
The science is in the elevation and the climate and the mountain water.
Let me finish what I'm going with. With the Angel's Envy port cask finish and other port cask finishes, it's like you try it and you taste a little bit of the port. Shout out to Dylan checking in. How's it going? Dylan, if you missed my lock for playoffs, it's Eagles -4.5 and Steelers +9.5. Also, if you want to go back, we gave out FFPC lineups. There is a SGP code that'll get you $25 off, and the main entry is $35. So you only cost you $10. For Angel's Envy and other port cask finishes, when you taste it, you're like, oh yeah, I can taste a little bit of the port. This is, to me, it's crazy where you don't taste that port until the finish. Like you've swallowed it, and then it's like, ooh, now I have port taste.
Yeah.
And I'm just really curious, like, how do they differentiate that? How do you get one where it's like, yeah, I can kind of taste the port, to this one where it literally at the finish, it's like, ooh, there's port and it's lovely.
Again, I think
you think elevation?
I do. I think that it probably affects, like the weather and the elevation probably affect how much of the port in the leaches into the whiskey.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Versus sitting in a really hot and humid,
right.
You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, that could very well be. It's just amazing to me how different they can be. Because you would think, oh, this is finished in a port cask, that would be similar. And to me, this hits just way different in a really good way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm biased towards Breckenridge because Brian Nolt was awesome. But
I do think that it's really, really good.
Yeah. I've liked everything from theirs. I'm really hoping we get to visit them in June or whatever. Work needs to send you to Denver so that
Work might be sending me to Denver.
Yeah, so that we can visit Breckenridge Distillery. I would love to go visit them.
And Vail
at 10th Mountain for sure. And yeah, we got Balcones coming up in February. We'll have content on that. So if you're into us because of the whiskey content, make sure you check that out. Good luck this weekend. We will have underdog lineups coming out on our YouTube shorts. So check out that. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, this has been fun.
It has been fun. It's been a while.
It's like the fantasy football after fantasy football season. Like, it's not over yet. We can do this.
That's right. Yeah, you got FFPC, you got Underdog Fantasy. It's not over yet. It's always funny looking back at our rankings to see how off we might have been. I know we hit
It was an
some.
interesting year.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in myself this year. I mean, you can't predict injuries though. You can't. And then I don't know what happened with tight ends this season, but
yeah,
it was disgusting.
Jamie only shows up for the football content. That's okay too. We hope we're bringing the best of both worlds, and because we love both of them. So, Mur, if you don't have anything else, my old fashioned is gone. How's yours doing?
It's about there.
Going once, going twice.
Sold.